This, for the project 1842, we are in St. John's Episcopal Church in downtown Marion, North Carolina. And today I am interviewing Mark Goodson, who was born and grew up in this county of McDowell County. Um, Today is April 7th, 2026. Mark, uh, do you understand that you are being recorded? And do you give your permission for this recording to be placed on the 1842 project website and made public?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You'll need to be sure you talk so it comes in.
Okay.
All right. So, can you tell me where and when were you born?
I was born in Marion at the Marion General Hospital in 1962, May of 1962.
What were your parents' names?
Carl and Mary Goodson.
Okay. And what community were you born into? And did you grow up in the same community, or did you all move?
Um, so when I was born, my parents were living just off Yancey Road, just past the edge of town. Excuse me. So that's, I wouldn't call it necessarily a community. There were two houses on our road, so pretty small community. But that's where I grew up.
Okay. And did you have any siblings?
Yes, I had two brothers and one sister.
Okay. Where are you in the?
I'm the youngest.
Okay. Awesome place to be. And so, what did your parents? What did they do in the community? What did they both work, or did just?
When I was very young, my mother did not work, but I would say probably around 12 years old or so, she started teaching at McDowell High School. She had been a teacher prior to that, and stopped to raise the kids. And so she started teaching at McDowell High School, probably around early 70s, I would say. And my father, when I was young, he was very young. He owned a business, a wholesale florist, with his father, which was very near the house. So I spent a lot of time there when I wasn't in school. But probably, I would say early 70s, he bought a gas station, which used to sit where the city hall is. Mm-hmm. So there was an Exxon station there, and he bought it from Harold Smith, who was the previous owner.
Cool. So what were some of the things that you and your siblings or friends did for fun when you were growing up?
Played a lot of sports. So the other house that was on our road, they were all girls, but they were all around the same age. So we played a lot of sports, football, baseball, basketball, with neighbors and also friends from school. So did that a lot. I would ride my bike. We were close enough to town so I could ride my bike into town and go to the community building or to the library or wherever I wanted to go. So.
Has that changed? The accessibility and I mean, like you said.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would let somebody as young as me ride on Yancey Road now to get to town. There's a whole lot more traffic than there used to be, and traffic seems to go a whole lot faster than it used to. So, just the whole thing about a 10-year-old kid getting on a bike and riding around town probably doesn't happen much anymore.
So where did you go to school?
Elementary school was Marion Elementary, which was right near our house. Then I went to West McDowell Junior High and McDowell High School.
And what was that like?
It was, I would say, pretty normal. Had a group of friends that in elementary school, pretty much all of my friends moved on to West McDowell Junior High School and then high school. So it was a group of friends that I'd been in school with for forever. So that was nice. You know, remember birthday parties and people coming over to spend the night, and just normal kid stuff.
Was there anything particular that any subject or anything like that that you particularly liked about school, or any teachers that you want to call? Or
I probably can't remember any of my elementary school teachers, but my favorite subject would have been history. Um, so, any history class or history-related class that was offered in high school as an elective, I took. So, and then I, of course, majored in history when I went to college. So I'd say that was my favorite subject.
And where did you go to college?
UNC.
Which one?
Chapel Hill.
Okay. It's not a given.
The good one. Yeah.
The first one, right?
Yeah.
And what were your college years like? Did you come back and forth, or?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. I definitely wasn't somebody who came back every weekend. There were people like that who did, but I made the most of my 4.5 years in college for sure. So it was a fun time.
Okay. Oh, that's a good laugh.
Yeah.
And so, what was your first job? Was it before you went to college or after you came back?
Well, when my dad bought the gas station, I worked for him, which I'm not sure you can really call that a job. But my first job that I really had to work at while I was in college, I was assistant cook for a sorority house. So there were the FIMU sorority house. I can't even remember how I got hooked up with them, but I was dishwasher and assisted the cook who came in and cooked the meals for the girls. So I did that for the 4.5 years that I was in college, which worked out great because it was good food.
Yes. Smart.
And as much as I could eat. So, yes.
And so, how did you move into your career now? When did you get married? What was your young adult life like after college? What did you do following college?
So while I was in college, history is not something that you're probably going to get a job doing. So I also majored in radio, television, motion pictures, which I now think at Carolina is called communications or something such as that. So my first real official adult job was as a cameraman at WLOS in Asheville. So I'd done an internship there the last summer. It took me 4.5 years. So this summer between my senior year and my extra semester, I did an internship at WLOS, and then after graduation, I started there full time. So that was my first real adult job. And I did that for a couple of years. And in 1986, we got married. And Terry, my wife, she was living in Durham working for Duke Hospital, and I was living in Asheville. So it was whether I found a job down there or she found a job up here. So I found a job down there with WPTF, NBC affiliate in Raleigh. So after we got married, I moved down there. We lived in Durham for about a year and a half to 2 years. I was doing the same thing at WPTF camera and some engineering, editing stuff. But in 1988, I think, I decided to go to graduate school at Wake Forest. So I went to Wake Forest and got my MBA in 1990. Graduated from there.
And so during that time, you all lived?
We lived, while I was at Wake Forest, I was a full-time student at Wake Forest. So while we were there, we lived in Clemens which is just this side of Winston-Salem. And Terry was working for Forsyth Memorial Hospital, I think is what it's called, but big hospital there in Winston that's not the medical school. And then once I graduated, we moved back here, and I started working at Baxter.
Okay. About when was that?
91.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see changes from when you had left so many years ago, really?
Not a lot. I mean, they're certainly not from when I grew up to that point. I mean, well, I guess you could say from the downtown Marion perspective, there was less business downtown, which, that's the trend has continued since then. But, I'd say it was early on in the early 90s. But yeah, there was a less lively downtown from when I grew up. And that seems to be coming back now a little bit, that there's more businesses and more things going on downtown. Certainly than there were in the 80s, 90s.
Mm-hmm. What was
early
downtown
2000s.
when you were growing up that went away?
Roses, so where Macca is now. I remember going to Roses, and they had 2 levels, and Belk was beside Roses, so I remember doing Christmas shopping at Belk. Drugstores, cafes. So one of the one thing I remember from early childhood, elementary school, was going to cafes with my dad, and when I would help him at his wholesale florist. We would go to cafes for lunch. What he did was he would have people in surrounding counties would go and harvest Galax and Leucotha and greenery and things like that he would then ship pretty much all over the country. And he would ship those either, most of it was probably on the buses. So I remember going to the bus station, which was kind of diagonal from the House Theater. So I remember going with him to deliver boxes to the bus station. And I think there was a little cafe in there that we would eat at sometimes. And I remember there was another one up on Main Street that we would eat at quite a bit.
And so what, do you remember when they built the 5-lane and what's now called the 5, or is that when you were so little that was already there?
I don't remember before the 5-lane was built, but I remember some of the businesses that were on the 5-lane. There was Little Buck's Grill, which is kind of across from the barbecue hut somewhere down there, I think. Or that might have been there was another little grill that was next to the community building playground that was kind of in that where the roads come together. But there was another one that I think was Little Buck that was farther down, maybe somewhere across from where barbecue hut is. And I don't recall before it was 5 lanes.
But significant, I mean, a little more significant than maybe you thought, because with all the stuff moving away from downtown and out into the area.
Yeah, I remember when the shopping center opened across from the Lady Marion Plaza, across from Hardee's. I remember when Hardee's came. That was big news when we got our first fast food place.
So what now is a normal day like for you?
Well, now that I'm retired, there's not a lot of activity, but I mean, since I've been retired, most of my time is spent working in my basement wood shop, working around the house and the yard, trying to get ready for summer. So we have a pool at the house, so there'll be hopefully lots of grandkids this summer. So trying to get everything cleaned up, and still cleaning up some stuff from the hurricane, from Helene. So we did have some damage from that we need to get repaired. But last year, there's still in our backyard, there were still quite a few sticks that I've been working on to get picked up and hauled off. But and still have quite a bit of wood that is stacked up that I probably need to haul off too, because I don't think I'll ever burn it.
So when you moved back and you worked at Baxter, so what was the day-to-day life like for you and Terry and the girls as they were growing up?
Yeah.
Did they go to the same schools or?
Yeah. So when we moved back, we had our first daughter, Emily, and then shortly after that, Marie, our second daughter, was born. So in their early life, a lot of our activities were around them, especially once they started school. So they went to where we live now is less than a mile from where I grew up. So they went to Marion Elementary, just like I did. So a lot of our early years were sports related with them, softball, cheerleading, swimming, and dance, of course, and piano. So a lot of our things that we did were basically revolved around the kids' activities.
Sounds like they had a lot available to them.
Yeah. So I mean, they did. They weren't bored, that's for sure.
So. But for McDowell to be so small to have all of those activities. So that if you were less than a mile from where you grew up, how has that neighborhood changed? So you said when you were growing up, there were just two houses.
Yeah.
Is that still
so
true?
On that street, there's on that road, there's still only two houses all the way at the end of the road. There's, there are more houses that you can see from there through the woods. So there's been other development around there, but not on the same street or road that house is on. And really, between where I live now and where I grew up, pretty much all the houses are the same. So the development that we live in now didn't exist when I grew up, but I don't think there's any other new houses. So it still, looks a lot like it did 50 years ago.
So what through your adult life, what has been the center for your social life, family, church, travel, service? What are the ways that you, like we talked about, what did you do for fun when you were little? What did you do for fun when you were an adult, when you weren't running to ball games?
Well, most of the friends that we have now, or a large majority of them, probably were friendships that were formed through our kids. So through activities that our kids were involved in or at school. That's probably the majority of our friend relationships at this point still. So, being in a small community, of course, churches, there's friendships that you develop at church. And a lot of those friendships were still centered on kids, because when my kids grew up at St. John's, they were two of a group of probably 12 to 14 youth that were pretty regular, with activities, going to summer camps and Bible school and things like that. So there were a lot of friendships that we formed with other parents of kids at that time. So, I think those are probably the two things that as adults, we formed friendships that were probably centered around our kids and church, and connections that we made that way.
So what kind of changes have you seen? Uh, we talked about that a little bit in McDowell County and the community around here in just recent years. And how is that, how do you think that that's impacted McDowell County in any way?
I think McDowell County is, obviously I've been here except for while I was in school and a couple of years living in Durham. I've been here 64 years almost, pretty much nonstop. So I think, we never entertained the thought of not living here. So when we lived in Durham, we wanted to get back to McDowell County.
Why was that?
It was a good place to raise kids. My family of the 2 brothers and 1 sister, both brothers live here. Wanted to be near parents. My wife's parents were here, so this was where we grew up, and we thought it was a good place to grow up as well. Now, being in a small community, there are limitations. So, that's one of the things that as we raised our girls, we always wanted to make sure that we, let them see that there were other things outside McDowell County. So we did a lot of traveling with the girls every year. We would take, vacations, usually national park vacations and things like that. So, I think McDowell County is definitely a great place to raise a family. As far as work goes, through Baxter, I had a great job at Baxter. I enjoyed my time there. Terry, she worked in sales, so she was always traveling. And I guess that was another reason we wanted to move back. So when I graduated from Wake Forest, she was traveling really almost throughout the Southeast. So coming back here meant that I had 2 sets of grandparents to help with the girls. But just beyond that, if you live in a small community like this, I think it's important to get out and see the world, and certainly the United States, and see what else is out there.
Can you put your finger on what makes it special that to you? Just not necessarily the whole world, but what made it special to you that you that you've made your life here?
Yeah. Well, I don't think of it as non-progressive or backwards or anything. I think Marion is a pretty progressive city. It's small, but there are certainly things that Marion is trying to do to not be backward, I guess. I don't really know how to say it, but the other thing that I enjoy about here is we're 45 minutes from Asheville. So, there's a nice town with lots of good restaurants and lots of things to do. The outdoors is, right there. So for hiking and all those kinds of activities, it's a great place. And I think the other thing is, it's nice being part of a small community that you can, like I said, we make friends through our kids. So, I don't see that with my daughter who lives in Winston-Salem, just because the community is so large and there's so many more things to do. I think, that's a little easier to do here because, it's a smaller pond, I guess.
Know your neighbors.
Yeah.
So was there anyone in particular in your lifetime that you looked up to, that had a big influence on you?
honestly, I don't know that I could, uh, you know, probably my mother. You know, if I try to be like anybody, I would say I try to be more like her. Nothing against my father, but she was, um, you know, if you asked Terry this, she'd say the same thing. I don't think I ever heard her say a bad thing about anybody ever. So, um, you know, my parents, uh, you know, anytime we asked them to help with the girls, they were always willing to help, or, you know, to do whatever we needed them to do. If we needed to, um, if if you know, there were probably occasions where Terry was traveling and I needed to take a trip, and you know, they were always there to let the girls spend the night with them. Or if I had something late at work, you know, if they need to get the girls at school, they were willing to do that. So, but it's certainly my mother and both parents as far as helping raise grandkids.
You all are doing that.
Yeah.
Um, what would you want future generations to know about McDowell County?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think people are, you know, people in McDowell County are good people that take care of, you know, each other, care for each other. You know, I saw that at Baxter. Part of, you know, Baxter was 2,400, 2,700 people, but there was always, um, you know, if someone was sick or someone needed help, there was always some part of Baxter, a line or a department that was taking up a collection for somebody. So, um, you know, I think, you know, I haven't been at Baxter for several years. So I don't know how connected they still are, since, you know, there's um, that core group of people. When I was at Baxter, you know, a lot of those had been there since day one at Baxter. So that was truly like a huge family. So I can't speak to how it is now, but certainly when I was there, you know, I got the sense that the people of McDowell County and Mitchell County and Yancey County, where the majority of those people came from, all cared for each other.
What would you give as advice to young people in McDowell County?
Um, I would say don't automatically um, assume you don't want to live here. You, I don't think there's anything wrong with working in McDowell County or living in McDowell County, and certainly now the way work is evolving, you can live anywhere and work anywhere. You don't have to live where you work. So, um, you know, it's a good community to raise a family in. Um, it's close enough to Asheville, and if you really want to go to Charlotte, you can. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I really care to go there, but um, yeah, I think if I were to advise my girls growing up, you know, I would say, hey, if you can live in McDowell County and work anywhere and still have a good life, and that would be my advice.
It's beautiful. How would you like to be remembered?
Yeah, I think as a good parent, good grandparent, I think that's the most important thing. So, and I think that's what Terry and I are trying to do with the grandkids, is build memories. So that's probably what I'd like to be remembered as.
Is there anything you thought we'd talk about that we didn't?
Nothing that comes to mind.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Anything that you thought ahead of time? I'd like to say this.
No, I don't do too much
Okay.
thinking ahead of time.
Thank you so much for being part of this, Mark.